Hello, brothers and sisters. This is Lenny. This is part 2 on young Antonio Arce, God rest his soul. Young Tempe, 14-year-old child, gunned down, shot in the back by a Tempe police officer. On this video, the reason I'm doing this short video is Arizona's largest radio station, KTAR, at least during a news commercial when they were talking about this shooting and how Maricopa County Attorney's Office today here in Arizona, they were describing how young Antonio Arce is being shot in the back by the former Tempe police officer, Officer Hollins. They basically said they made at least sound on the commercial during KTAR, and this is Arizona's largest radio station. This is going out to millions of people during drive time home, and they know this. They stated to me misleadingly, if not stating clear out, they implied that young Antonio Arce would not release his gun, and this is why they did not render medical assistance. Now, I know some good people at KTAR, okay? I'm not hating, but what I'm saying is I don't know if they garbled the message, because I already don't agree with the way Tempe police has handled this, of course. And they will not silence us. And I'm not, by the way, a cop hater, because I have friends that are police, so that's going to piss off some people on my friends of the left, but I'm pissing off people on the right. But it's not about that. It's about the fact that this young child was shot in the back. So unnecessarily, like some wild animal from 300-400 feet away, the officer said, "Oh, I thought he had a gun." The young kid did not turn back pointing a weapon. He looked back and he kept running, and he called out or something, I don't know, to stop. He didn't stop. So this officer shot him in the back. And of course, the Supreme Court has ruled if you think there's a fleeing felon and he could harm somebody, you can just, hey, shoot him in the back, basically, which I don't agree with the way they've interpreted it, or the way the United States Supreme Court did this. But anyways, KTAR stated during their commercial that, apparently young Antonio Arce, he was left to bleed out for 7 minutes, to bleed to death, because they wouldn't render medical assistance, Tempe police officials, because he wouldn't release the toy gun. Now, it could be that KTAR just messed this up, and they're saying that he was shot, which is still, I don't believe it, but the officer shot him because he didn't drop the gun as the officer shot him when he was running away, the toy gun. So, essentially, I'm asking KTAR, I'm hoping you will ask them. Again, it could be an honest mistake of miscommunication, but again, when you have Arizona's largest news radio station on the FM dial during drive time, when you have almost 1 million people, I'm not sure, tuning in and out, listening to KTAR, it's the major radio station for a lot of the news reports or traffic. Well, that misleads a lot of people. Now, a lot of people are thinking, the way this report they just read on KTAR, that young Antonio Arce, that somehow they were demanding he release his gun, as he's laying in his pool of blood. Now, if they are correct, and this is what the Tempe police are saying, that, because I've heard that this Officer Hine, after he waited for him to, bleed to death, he's lying on the ground, his skinny toothpick of a kid, little 14-year-old. Then he's like, I shot a kid. Because they turned him over, he had the toy gun was underneath him. So I'm not sure if I heard part of that audio, but again, most of us already know that the Tempe Police Department withheld information, are very hard to get for the press, the media. And of course, the usual accusations against people like ourselves who are trying to stand up for human rights, that, you're just armchair quarterbacking. Yeah, okay. There's enough detailed evidence here. This kid's 300 or 400 feet away. The officer takes his time, takes a beat on this little kid like he's some kind of animal in an animal hunt, and shoots him. Then when he gets up to the little kid, supposedly the little kid, they didn't just put a weapon there, put a throw gun there, a pretend toy gun, because the owner of the truck did say, I believe there was a toy gun, but I don't know. That we have to check on. So anyways, again, and now the Maricopa County attorney's office had said, hey, everything's hunky-dory. We don't have enough evidence. He thought the kid had a gun and, he could just shoot him in the back as he was running away 300 or 400 feet. So, of course, they're going to say, Leonard, that's an oversimplification. Actually, it's not enough evidence. And the way Tempe City Police and the Tempe City government, sorry, you guys are representing the Tempe City Police. Your city manager, your mayor, and I know some Democrats who know the Democrats on the board. And I know Democrats who are running in the district that lies within their district, some Democrats in the state legislature where young Antonio was gunned down. And I've not really seen anything about them protesting. I don't know. I know that the Tempe City Council, some members were, we want to see the results and all this. So if you already know what they're saying over in Tempe, I hope it's, hey, we condemn this decision by the Maricopa County attorney. Now, the Maricopa County attorney some years back also, I believe, prosecuted the officer who basically summarily executed Mr. Daniel Shaver, something like that. That was the man in the Mesa City hotel or motel, whatever, crawling in a hallway, begging for his life, and this guy just basically executed him. This officer filled him full of bullets. It's on video. It's horrible. It's unspeakable. So, and this is one of the reasons sometimes and again, I'm not a cop hater. I know some of you don't want the police. I get it. Randy, I know. Okay, we will have to, I just agree to disagree on a little, but then again, when my friends like Randy are saying, Lenny, we don't need the constabulary, they were established as a slave, capturing force, I'm like, well, look what's happening. Look what, here in Arizona. Because I've lived in some privilege. I wasn't rich. Did I worry about the police sometimes coming after me? But, I didn't have to worry like, hey, man, I'm black or I'm brown, I'm indigenous, and they're going to be like, hey, why are you driving that car? Why are you driving such a nice car, or just because they don't like people of color. I don't know. But, so anyways, I just needed you to know that KTAR radio, unfortunately just played on their commercial, and I hope they're going to correct this, basically that young Antonio refused to release his toy gun, and that's why he was allowed to bleed to death. From what we've understood, what we've heard, the young child was laying on top of his gun. He was laying on top of his weapon, and that's what happened. So he was laying on top of his gun, and essentially he wouldn't get off the gun. So anyways, I'm going to let you go. I'm sitting in a parking lot. And just after hearing this on KTM, let's see if they're talking about it right now.
They will treat you amazing.
No, it's a commercial. So anyways, that is very sad. And I know some of you don't probably care. I do, because I don't want a stinking king. And yes, do we already have an empire to some extent, the United States? Yes, I grant you that, but that doesn't mean I'm going to just sit by and say, okay, let's formalize it and have this traitor who puts children in cages, who had as his official policy. So when you want to talk about Obama did not have his attorney general as an official policy to kidnap children from immigrant parents and make an excuse, we were worried about child sex traffickers, and then put them in cages, okay? And then have Betsy DeVos and people like that making money off of the adoption thing, as we have this scandal going on here in Phoenix. And we need to look at Betsy DeVos as well, or look at the excellent writing that some journalists have already done on her. So anyways, that's what's going on, brothers and sisters. This is why I'm glad I try to go over to your walls and I read what you say. I try to go on YouTube and do these other things because, if you just listen to KTAR right now, this young kid, he refused to let go of a gun. He was unconscious, laying in a pool of blood on top of a toy gun, the skinny little twig of a kid, and the big bad Tempe police officer, and I'm not sure if other Tempe police officers just stood there for 7 minutes and let him bleed out. So I want to thank our friends, I believe it's Tempe Citizens Against Police Violence. Darian Barrett is always there, so he's already had a dear friend that was killed, was also allowed to bleed out. So that's what's going on. And you might say, well, Leonard, it's an uphill battle to try to change things, but I don't think so. I think we can do something. I know the governor, or the Republicans just passed a law several years ago. I was there at the legislature when they made it so that if you, say you're over at your neighbor's house and your neighbor happens to be a police officer. He's off duty. He or she's off duty. Say you're playing pool. You guys get in an argument. Maybe he drank a little bit of beer. You drank. You guys get stupid. Say the officer pushes you, or you push the officer. Well, guess what? If the officer calls the police, maybe doesn't like you, wants to get even, calls his police department, under the new state law of Arizona, you would be charged for assaulting a police officer, even if he's off duty, he or she's off duty. I think that's wrong. Giving more and more powers. I understand there are people that hate the police. I don't agree with that. But there are plenty of police that seem to hate people like who go to Trump protests like we did at the Coliseum. And Phoenix Police Department, I'm not saying all of you, but many of them, journalists found out that the police department had not put out honest information, found the casings of foam bullets, which really are like rubber bullets, but they use semantics, the authorities, and they stated then, they're foam bullets, as if that feels better than a rubber bullet. So, all right, I'm going to let you go. And this is part 2. Maricopa County Attorney, shame on you. I'm saddened and, greatly beyond words saddened to say that I'm not surprised at this decision. And yes, the reason there's only so few of us brothers and sisters that do this, that try to bring out the alternative information, what we believe are the facts when we know they are, is the reason there's so few of us is because many of us are afraid of retribution or for our families. Get a call from Child Protective Services, now Department of Child Services or whatever. Get your taxes audited a little bit more. I've had the governor, as I've said, he sent out a detective from his unit. He'll claim that he didn't over this whole Jefferson Davis Memorial thing 3 or 4 years ago, simply because I posted a picture. Somebody sent it to me, and I guess the media hadn't even put it out yet. And I'm like, I'm going to let people know. It was a picture of the Jefferson Davis Memorial, tarred and feathered. I had no idea who did it. My friend said, hey, here's this picture. Share it. I did. And next thing I know, my soon-to-be ex-wife had, because I saw the divorce paperwork, you can look up records on people when they're divorcing in Arizona. Next thing I know, my ex-wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, calls me and says, there's a detective from Governor Ducey, a state police guy coming here. And I guess I thought they were going to get dirt on me and that my soon-to-be ex-wife hated my guts. Instead, she calls me. Her coworker's like, what is there, this guy here, asking questions. So that makes her look bad. And, he looked at me like he was seeing a ghost, because it's like, no, officer, I'm here. You're trying to get dirt on me. I have nothing to do with any crime. If there was a crime committed, I simply posted a picture. And this is how they go after bloggers. Anybody who puts the information out. So anyways, I hope you have a good, safe Friday night and weekend, brothers and sisters. And if I see anything or you see anything, please let me know, and I will let you all know if I see any more information. But that's just something I saw on Arizona's largest KTAR radio station. They're misleading people. Hopefully we won't hear them reporting it that way. Let's see before I finish what they're talking about. Here we go.
Arce to drop the toy and show his hands. He didn't. It also took police 7 minutes to start rendering first aid.
Officers need to protect their safety, and the weapon was still within his reach that they knew of.
Oh,
they followed their training and procedures.
And Adele added, based on these facts, she would not win a conviction at trial. Live in the news center.
So there you go. There you go. Have to follow safety. The skinny little toothpick of a kid lying in a pool of blood, unconscious. We have to just stand there and let the little kid bleed out, because that's standard procedure. Let little skinny children bleed out, laying in cold blood, curled up on the ground. Just let them bleed out, because that's standard procedure for our own safety. And I know you're going to say, Leonard, you ain't no stinking police officer, so go, jump in a you-know-what creek. But even though I haven't been a civilian police officer, I was a military police officer, and I have some friends who are very angry about me in Iraq, and I have some friends who supported me, but I believe what was right. And yes, I was trained as a military police officer, and I worked with Phoenix Police and different police units. Nice people, good people. I lost some friends who got killed there. So but when people tell me I don't know because I wasn't trained as a police officer, I went through a year's training course in the Army Reserve. And, in Iraq, although we were mostly getting shot at, we were still military police. And, and that's what our designation was in the military. So the evidence is there. this whole thing about armchair quarterbacking, all I know is Governor Ducey, Doug, you were ready and willing, and you did intervene and ask for the FBI to investigate the tasing incident with the Glendale police, tasing the man unnecessarily in front of his child, in the testicles and all these other things. But this little kid, toy gun, supposedly, they let him bleed to death for 7 minutes. And if you'll go to my friend Darian Barrett, Tempe Against Police Violence, I have a hard time getting there sometimes because I don't get paid, okay? I'm trying to raise money sometimes so I can get gas and so I can go. And if I can buy a bag of Top Ramen and go to a secondhand store or a dollar store and get a tripod for my camera, fine, I will take that. But other than that, I try to get over to Tempe. But Darian Barrett and Tempe Against Police Violence and the people there, they've been going through this and protesting this in the city of Tempe, Arizona. His friend was led to bleed to death, a young man who had allegedly robbed a Walgreens, but went in the shed and the police just let him for forever stay in there bleeding to death. I get what they're saying, but when you have a skinny, tiny child laying there bleeding to death, and I think I might have heard the audio, you got to get up, drop the weapon, and the kid's lying just, still on the ground, bleeding in a pool of blood. That's standard operating procedure, just to let the child bleed to death. So that is the state of things in Maricopa County, Arizona. It looks like our friend Darian has just popped on. Hello, brother. I'm sorry that you have, but first of all, I want to thank you. And I think there are many people that I can speak for, Darian, that would thank you for what you and our brothers and sisters are doing nonviolently in Tempe, Arizona. You've already witnessed one of your friends already bleed to death. And now to witness this happening and today. And Darian, the reason I do the political thing, and I know my anarchist friends are like, Leonard, doesn't matter. Well, it does matter because there ain't no freaking rules. This little kid, not you, Darian, this little kid, you know what? We need to get justice any nonviolent, legally and constitutional way for my friends who are monitoring, and you know who they are. And I know that this area is run by Democrats. I know that state legislative candidates are Democrats whose area that this young boy was gunned down in the back. And people say, Leonard, don't go there. They're not Tempe City Council. Okay, if their district is the district that where young Antonio Arce was killed, and that would be Acela Blanc, state representative, and State Senator Mendez, I would expect them to come out and condemn today's declaration by the Maricopa County attorney that, everything, nothing wrong here, folks. Young boy gunned down in the back. I'm tired of hearing about, certain people show up to protest. And I like Senator Mendez and I like Representative Acela Blanc. So I hope that you will speak out and condemn this. And I'm wanting to see who will do that. So, anyways, Darian, you have a good afternoon. I'm going to keep going on with this. Please, if you can, Darian, post, let's see, he wrote, thank you for speaking on this for us. I'm heartbroken from this all.